phones up. They've got great hardware, but what's with this TouchWiz and this funky camera and all of that? Well, I was really interested in the new Galaxy Note 4. First of all, I've had every Note since the first one came out. I was the guy, who had the giant phone that you mocked. Now it doesn't look so big, does it? This is a 5.7-inch phone. It's actually physically smaller than the iPhone 6 Plus, even though it has a bigger screen, because Samsung doesn't have a lot of bezels. This is almost edge-to-edge screen, and boy, what a great screen. It's a quad HD screen. I think it's 2560 by 1440. There are a few phones out now with that kind of resolution. Of course, the LG G3 was the first. The Nexus 6, which is coming out soon, will also have quad HD, but I gotta tell you, Samsung Super AMOLED screens, there's nothing better. These look so good. The blacks are so black. The whites are so bright. The colors are so rich. Here, look over my shoulder. You can get a better idea of how this looks. Now, of course, you're looking on your screen at home. Notice one thing. I immediately took off TouchWiz, and I'm using the Nova launcher. That's one thing I wanted to emphasize. You're not stuck with TouchWiz. If you like TouchWiz, there's some new features. In fact, let me launch the TouchWiz browser so you can at least see what Samsung is offering for you. TouchWiz launcher, not browser. They've customized things quite a bit. Actually, I don't know how to get in there anymore. But somehow I can get in there a little later on. But I do want to show you one of the things Samsung still does poorly. Now, this is TouchWiz. You can't change the quick settings. And look how cluttered this screen is. Once you get used to it, you might find it's really great that you have all these controls, but it feels like a 747 cockpit. Up here, the quick touch settings, and of course, you can customize those to your heart's content. This is brightness, and one of the nice things about Samsung, and a lot of others don't do this, you can have auto brightness, but nudge it a couple of stops up or down, depending on your personal taste. So if you want to save battery, nudge it down by 2. If you really like a crisp, bright screen, nudge it up a couple, or just put it right in the middle. These two buttons you'll never use. S-Finder is basically a global search. Forget about it. I don't even remember what Quick Connect does. It's connect to somebody else using a Samsung phone in your neighborhood. Who cares? Forget Quick Connect. That should not be there. I should be able to get rid of this. These are my notifications. Some of them, of course, are mine. Notice the Samsung's doing something kind of interesting here. I have it set up so that it will automatically bond different connections. So I can use the 4G plus the Wi-Fi for faster downloads. I don't know of any phone that does that.
That's cool.
That's kind of a nice feature. Samsung also has stayed with the physical home button. For me, that's a little bit of a negative. I'm not a big fan of physical home buttons, but I got to say, it works. And they have capacitance soft touch buttons here at the bottom. Unlike the standard with Android these days, these are not on-screen buttons. The plus of that is it doesn't take up any screen space. This is a back button, this is a recent apps button, and of course the home button. And these can be overloaded to do more things if you press and hold, things like that. This is all customizable. And that's the thing that really I want to emphasize about the Note 4. This is a phone for people like you, Shannon, people who love to tweak, who love to change things, who love to set things. There are more settings in here than you could shake a stick at. Samsung, you remember on the last phone, the S5 and the previous Note 3, had multiple pages of settings. They've gone back to these super long lists. This goes on and on and on and on and on. There are so many things you can set in here. I don't even know where to start. Let's go. I'll give you a couple, and you can see that distinguish this phone. This is a fingerprint reader at the bottom. S5 had that. It is probably not as good as Apple's iPhone fingerprint reader, but it's pretty darn good. You could train it for up to 3 fingers. I've trained it for both thumbs and an index finger. You have to swipe pretty much vertically down, but it works. And more than working to unlock the phone, it also works with Google Wallet. It works with my banking applications. It works with LastPass. So if your applications are set up to use fingerprint authentication, and LastPass, for instance, which I use all the time, that's a huge convenience. I loved that on the iPhone. It does it very well on the Galaxy Note 4. I should also point out that this has a massive battery in it. It is a 3320 milliamp hour battery, and it's removable. Yes. This is one of the last killer feature phones on the market that still has a back, crappy though it may be, that you can pull off and you can get access to. Look how big that battery is. You can also add an SD card up to 128 gigabytes. That kind of makes up for the fact that they only have 32 gigabytes of storage on the phone. I find that's ample. I'm very happy with it. And the fact that I could put a big SD card in there kind of makes up for that. You'll also notice a couple of extra things on the back here. Besides the really excellent 16 megapixel camera, there's, like on the S5, there's a fingerprint, not a fingerprint, a heart rate monitor, and something they call SO2, oxygen monitor. And you hold your finger there and you forget it. You're never going to use that. It also has a pedometer in here, and all that ties into the Samsung S Health application. One more feature that the Notes have become famous for, the S Pen stylus. It works better than ever on this. I love it. Very nice stylus. Pressure sensitive, so you can get fine lines and you can get thick lines. It really is. And it's very fluid. You can see how fast it keeps up. That's probably because there's 3 gigs of RAM in here. The Snapdragon 805 processors run at 2.7 gigahertz. I have the unlocked European version, which has Samsung's proprietary octa-core Exynos processor, running at a slightly slower speed, but I have to say, plenty of processing power. This thing is a monster. The camera, you know, arguably the best camera on the market today. I would say without a doubt, let's close this out. Without a doubt, the best camera on an Android phone. It competes very well with Apple's iPhone 6 and has some very nice features. Who took that? Oh, that's a selfie. That's one of the features is you can turn the phone around. There's a selfie version that when you turn it around, it actually sees your face, counts you down with haptic feedback. You don't have to use the front camera. You might, though, because it's 120 degrees angle on the front camera. It's a special selfie camera, and it's a pretty good front camera. I think it's a 3.7 megapixels, so that's great. Also, Ultra HD video. Let me play it back here. I just took this video. Let me see if it's going to turn sideways. The quality of the video, you really can't see here. Superb. The amazing HD video. I work with weirdos. I'm sorry, what can I say? The picture quality is excellent. I couldn't be happier with this. I'll put some samples up online, but one of the reasons people are buying the Galaxy Note 4 is because it does, in fact, have, I bet you for you this is true too, has a really superb camera. Now, one thing we dinged the S5 and S4 for is all of the camera modes. They go on and on. Samsung's been listening. They've really stripped out a lot of the weirdness that they put in the S5. For instance, yes, the modes are there, but you can turn them off so you never see them. So if you never want to use beauty face or multiple shots, you could just turn them off, pick the ones you want. By default, only a few are turned on. I do like selective focus. We've seen that before on the M8, the HTC One, and the Lumia phones. That's the ability to pull focus in or out depending on what you want after you take the picture. The sports shot is kind of interesting. It now has several modes within the sports shot. If you take a picture, you can choose to have, in fact, I think I did it with Burke. Let's see, I'll go back and see if I can find that. So I had Burke walk across the scene, and you can choose whether to erase him completely or have multiple shots of him walking across the scene. You get to choose. You can have that's the drama shot. And when you have the drama shot, you could pick which of these images. So I shot him as he's walking across, and I can have as many of him as I want. This is a nice thing. I think you're going to have fun with this. Now, obviously, Burke walking across the set is not very interesting, but if somebody's snowboarding, diving off a diving board, doing something that's actually interesting, this is a very nice feature. I was very pleased with this. And again, it's hidden away, so if you're not interested in it, you don't have to see it. The eraser shot's hysterical because it looks at the original and then erases unwanted moving objects. Ooh. I like it. Bye-bye, Burke. So... So they've really put some thought into this. They've added nice features, but they've hidden them away so that you don't have to see them. In fact, in general, TouchWiz is much cleaner. They've listened to people, and they've taken out a lot of the cruft, including the multi-page settings, the weird stuff in the cameras. And I think this just even looks better. Lots of features in here. Yes, you can touch and pay with your Google Wallet or other credit cards. NFC is built in. I think the S Pen works great. Remember all the weird motion and gestures and things, like it would look at your eyes, you could scroll up and down? They took all of that stuff out. It does the things that really matter. For instance, it'll notice if you're looking at it and not go blank if you want. You can still do a screenshot by wiping your hand across it. A few of the things that were actually useful are still there, but a lot of those weird things like scrolling by moving your eyes up and down, gone, gone. And I have to praise Samsung for doing that. For a long time, my mom used a Galaxy Note 3 in easy mode. If you know somebody who doesn't want anything too fancy, the easy mode is big icons, very easy to use, and really takes a lot of the complexity of a phone like this out of the picture. So I'm very pleased with that. Samsung has done a good job listening to its users, improving the phone, an amazing screen. The S Pen works great. It's got a lot of power in it, including a bunch of battery life. I'm currently at 31% after about 8 hours, and that's when you get a new phone, you use it a lot. I think it's going to get even better than that. And because it's removable, $20, you pick up an extra battery. Never have to worry about running out.
Up another battery.
Oh, no wonder I'm killing the battery life. There's that flash on. Let's see, pros and cons here. Gorgeous screen, quad HD, and it's not sluggish at all because they've jammed a lot of processor power. In fact, the specs in general are amazing. 2560 by 1440. It's almost a 3 gigahertz processor, 2.7 gigahertz quad core processor in a phone. That's amazing. I really like the 16 megapixel camera on the back. The front camera is 3.7 megapixels. Optical image stabilization. Infrared IR is back, so you can use it as a remote control. The Samsung TV app makes that very easy to set up. Ant Plus and a lot of other multimedia things people really like. The S Pen works great. The fingerprint reader actually works. Hey, kudos to Samsung. And I think the pedometer, the health monitors are really nice. On the con, well, because it's got TouchWiz on here, remember, this is a KitKat phone, but Lollipop's going to come out any day now, and you know that will be available to people who use Nexus phones, for instance, but not for TouchWiz phones for quite some time, because Samsung has to take that source code and fix it and make it work with TouchWiz. That slows everything down. So it is KitKat. I'm going to have to say that's a negative, given that Lollipop is due any minute now. The speaker's not great. It has a single speaker in the back. It's loud, but kind of tinny. And the price, whoa! If you get this from a carrier with a 2-year plan, $300. Is that what you paid?
Nope, I'm doing the full price.
And the full price, $800 for this phone. Actually, I think we found it on Amazon for
you can find it as little as
$650. Do you find it for $650?
Yeah. If you do the smaller gig version, the 32 gig.
I should have shopped around. All right, well, there you go. It's very expensive still.
Yes.
Especially when you see phones that are very close in spec, like the OnePlus One, for half that much. And also, you've got to remember the Nexus 6, Google's Nexus phone, is going to have many of these same specs